She looked me in the eyes and called it a game. She was 6 months pregnant, standing in our kitchen, dismissing a 3-month physical affair as nothing more than a temporary distraction. But she didn't realize who she was talking to. As a commercial insurance underwriter, my entire life is built around risk assessment. I look at structures, identify the weak points, and calculate the exact moment of collapse. Standing there, looking at my wife, I realized our foundation wasn't just cracked, it was gone. We had been together for 8 years, married for 5. We lived a quiet, predictable life in a mid-sized Midwestern city. I worked long hours at my desk, while Martha had recently left her marketing job so we could focus on starting a family. But as the months went on, a subtle shift began to occur. Martha's sarcastic humor, which I had spent years brushing off as harmless teasing, started to feel sharper. If I disagreed with her, I was suddenly called overly sensitive. If I forgot a minor chore, I was labeled useless. Then she found a new escape. It was a local cafe just down the street from our house. She claimed it helped her feel less isolated during the day. A place to sit with her laptop and clear her head. That's where she met Harold. He was in his early 30s, working part-time while trying to launch a small photography business. At first, he was just a friendly face she mentioned in passing. But soon, the comparisons began. "Harold actually listens," she would tell me with a light laugh. "Harold isn't trapped in a corporate hamster wheel like you." If I pulled back or showed even a hint of discomfort, she would roll her eyes. She called me insecure. But then, her behavior shifted in ways that logic couldn't ignore. She changed her phone passcode. She began taking long, solitary walks in the evening, claiming she needed fresh air for the baby. If I offered to join her, she snapped, telling me I was smothering her. The tension was building, a slow-burning pressure cooker in a house that used to feel like home. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, a meeting got canceled. I came home early, expecting an empty house. The house was indeed quiet, but Martha's laptop was sitting open on the kitchen table. She never left her devices open. I wasn't looking for a scandal. I was simply searching for our prenatal medical files for our appointment the next morning. But there, blinking on the screen, was an email preview. It was from Harold. It said he couldn't stop thinking about what they had done the day before. I clicked the thread. What followed was 3 months of highly documented betrayal. Complaints about my long hours quickly evolved into private meetups, inside jokes, and physical intimacy. I didn't scream. I didn't smash things. I closed the laptop, sat down at the table, and let the cold reality settle in. The house was legally mine, purchased long before our marriage. I paid the mortgage, the utilities, and funded her daily life. When she walked through the door at 5 o'clock, acting as if nothing had changed, I told her we needed to talk. She sighed, annoyed that I was interrupting her evening. I told her I had read the emails. She didn't panic, nor did she deny it. Instead, she leaned against the counter and said it was just a bit of fun. "I'm pregnant and hormonal," she shrugged. I needed attention. In that exact second, my emotional connection to her died. I looked at her and told her to pack a bag. She laughed, thinking it was a bluff. But when I walked upstairs, retrieved her suitcase, and set it on the bed, her expression changed. I told her she had 1 hour to leave, or I would call her father and explain exactly why she was being escorted out. She began to cry, but the tears felt calculated. "You are ruining our family over nothing," she sobbed. I told her the family was ruined the moment she decided excitement was worth more than respect. She packed slowly, trying to drag out the minutes, hoping I would break. I stayed downstairs, refusing to negotiate. When she finally walked out the door, the silence in the house was instantly clean. Within 10 minutes, my phone began to ring. First Martha, then her mother, and finally her father. Her mother screamed about cruelty, but her father was different. He asked what happened. I told him the truth, calmly and without hyperbole. An hour later, her father called me back, his voice heavy with disappointment. Martha had admitted everything. The physical affair had been ongoing for months. They would keep her at their house, he told me. That night, I changed the locks. I wasn't doing it out of anger. I was doing it because she still had a key, and I refused to live with the risk of her or Harold entering my home. The next morning, I separated our joint accounts. I moved her half of the funds to a separate account in her name and rerouted my paychecks. Then, I blocked her phone number. I knew her cycle. She would alternate between weaponized tears and hostile insults. I needed logic, not an emotional circus. Her mother texted, demanding to know why Martha was blocked. I replied that all future communication regarding the pregnancy would go through email or legal counsel. By afternoon, I was sitting in a lawyer's office with a printed stack of her emails. But Martha wasn't done playing her hand. She sent a long email claiming that judges favor pregnant mothers. She warned me that pushing for a divorce would destroy my custody rights. My attorney smiled when he read it. Threats disguised as legal advice are very common, he said. In our state, custody is determined by the child's best interest, not emotional manipulation. The next weekend, Martha showed up at my house. I watched her on the driveway camera, walking up to the door she could no longer unlock. I opened the door, but I did not step aside to let her in. She wanted to talk like adults, she said, claiming it was humiliating to stand on the porch. I reminded her that this was my property. She tried a new tactic, calling Harold a mistake that could easily be fixed with therapy. There is nothing to fix, I told her. The legal process has already begun. She stared at me, realizing for the first time that her leverage was completely gone. 2 months later, she gave birth to a boy. I did not attend the delivery room. I had informed her family in advance that I would only be present for the cold, legal realities. The hospital administered a paternity test before I signed any documentation. She called it a public humiliation. I called it basic risk management. 10 days later, the results arrived. He was my son. A quiet wave of relief washed over me. Not because I wanted to save the marriage, but because this child deserved absolute clarity. Martha tried one last desperate push, begging me to withdraw the divorce now that our son was here. She blamed the entire affair on pregnancy stress. But trust is like glass. Once shattered, you cannot simply wish the cracks away. Her father privately called me to say he understood my position. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. There were no dramatic speeches, no tears in the courtroom, just the quiet scratch of a pen. It has been 8 months since that day. We communicate solely through a court-approved parenting application. Our exchanges are public, brief, and completely documented. I recently learned that Harold didn't stick around. Once the thrill of the secret was replaced by the reality of a crying newborn, he vanished. But that didn't bring me joy. It simply confirmed what I already knew. The affair was never about finding a new life. It was about the cheap thrill of violating a promise. Our son is healthy, and when he is with me, the house is filled with a quiet, structured peace. People still ask me if I moved too fast, or if I should have had more patience with her situation. My answer is always the same. Stress can explain a choice, but it can never excuse the absolute dismissal of another human being. My actions weren't born of cruelty. They were born of self-preservation. And today, as I look out over my quiet living room, I don't feel anger. I don't feel regret. I simply feel Peace.